All right, well, we are through the first month of the year, and I think it went pretty well. I want to start out by giving a shout out to my new top tier Wizard Master patron, Jughead. Thank you so much for your support. Hey everyone, welcome back to Andrew's Wizardly Reads, and as always guys, I am Andrew. Today we are doing the monthly wrap up for January. Before we get into this, please do me a favor and like this video and subscribe to the channel, as it does help the channel grow, and you can check the description box down below for links to all my social media, including information about my Patreon and a link to the Discord. That said, guys, we should just jump right on in because I've got about 12 books to talk about. Let's move this one off because I'm going to save that for last, because I've got one that's still in progress. I'm just not going to be able to kind of finish it this month. This month was kind of interesting. I did have some health stuff come up. Everything is fine. It just kind of shook me up a little bit, and I wasn't quite able to get to everything that I wanted to. Now, as you all know, I am doing the Read Your Shelf Challenge, which means most of these books were already on my shelf. In fact, I would say all but one of them I own physically, which is good. That means I am working on what I already have. So we're going to start off with the Bill Hodges, #1, Mr. Mercedes. I really enjoyed the first Bill Hodges book. I thought it was excellent watching Hodges just sit in retirement. He's like a retired cop. He's not doing well. And then he kind of gets drawn back into one of his cases that he just kind of left hanging during retirement. There was this horrific killing and this massacre. The killer was never caught. And we get to experience the story from the killer's POV as well. It's so fascinating. I can't wait to see what the rest of this trilogy has in store. I know it's of mixed quality, but we did read Bill Hodges. Finally, I've been meaning to read Bill Hodges now for I don't know, a year and a half. I thought it was going to be one of the first ones I started reading when I got back into Stephen King, and it is most certainly not, because I am 30 plus books into Stephen King now, and I'm just now getting to the Bill Hodges trilogy. And then I started out the year with Godfree Under Siege by Mark Howard. This is book 2 in the Griffin Legends, and I'm really, really happy that I finally got around to reading this. Mark is a fantastic individual. I love this cover. It's just Godfrey just, it's funny, Mark did a thing where he was just explain your story badly. And it was boy acquires castle, boy refuses to leave. That's kind of what this is. But essentially, we're kind of following off of Godfrey's Crusade with Godfrey Under Siege. Basically, we're in the Crusades, and there is a siege. We get a lot of evolution of the relationships. We kind of leave the honeymoon period that was in Godfrey's Crusade, and we start exploring those relationships, exploring what it means to kind of grow up and have adult relationships and everything that goes into being a lord in a foreign land. It's really, really good. You should do yourself a favor and check out Mark Howard's work. My only critique is it does read a little on the YA side, but at the same time, it will also appeal to adult fantasy readers. I then came back to The Seven Kennings. I've been meaning to read this book since I started filming in my original location. I think that's when I did Plague of Giants. It was forever ago that I read Plague of Giants, and I finally read A Blight of Black Wings thanks to this challenge, and I'm very glad that I did. It wasn't as good as A Plague of Giants, but I gave Plague of Giants 4.5 or a 5-star. I don't know, it's been a while, but I have fond memories of it, and I was luckily, even after so much time, able to recall quite a bit of the story, and what I couldn't recall was available through context clues throughout the text, and so it really caught me back up. I really enjoyed this. It was a great audiobook narration as well, except there were a couple rough parts where, if a female was doing a POV, but then, there was a male POV that then had to voice that female character, the male POV, butchered it, while the female narrator, killed it. They were both good at their respective narrations. It was just don't touch that particular POV. That's her narration. Other than that, I didn't have any real issues. I did think that the humor at times was just this one really ramped up the funny. And it's not particularly a funny story. But other than that, the structure still remains very interesting. We're kind of being told multiple POV stories through a single individual who has the ability to take on these people's aspect and give you the story. He's like a bard. and he can use his magic to kind of convey these people's stories in their visage. It's very, very interesting. I'm excited to close out the trilogy this next month with, I believe, A Curse of Krakens. And then, of course, I came back because I figured it was a narration issue, and it was. We did King of Assassins by R.J. Barker. This is my 6th R.J. Barker book that I have read, and I am so glad that I came back to this series because the epilogue of King of Assassins is just so incredibly bittersweet because it ends exactly the way that this series just had to end. We get to see enemies become friends and friends become enemies. We really get to explore Girton's pain, his past, his life throughout the entire trilogy. And don't get me wrong, it is a very bittersweet story just because we get to kind of realize some relationships. We get to kind of deal and put to bed past traumas while opening fresh wounds in Girton's life. And this one is just, please do yourself a favor and check out The Wounded Kingdom if you haven't already. It starts out with, I believe, what's the first book called? Age of Assassins. I want to say Wounded Kingdom because that's the name of the trilogy. But it starts out with Age of Assassins and then goes to Blood of Assassins and King of Assassins. This one's really, really good. I've got one book left currently that I have unread from R.J. Barker, and then hopefully he will be coming here on the channel, and we're going to talk about his work. Just need to read that book first. Then I did Legend of Eli Monpress, book number 2, The Spirit Rebellion. This is my omnibus. You can see I've got book 3 sectioned off right there. And again, Spirit Rebellion was really, really good. There are a couple tropey things that kind of get repeated and explored, but even though they were repeated, they were expounded upon, and they feel slightly different in a terms of, like, there's been some growth since we last tried this particular thing within our characters, but Eli continues to be an absolute delight. He's a thief, he's smarmy, and I mean, Yosef and everybody in this is so incredibly good. If you want something that is just absolutely rock solid, a fantastic palate cleanser, and that will have a very entertaining magic system, The Legend of Eli Monpress is definitely where it's at. Like, if you've been craving some more Scott Lynch and you want to mix in some Michael J. Sullivan, this is where it is at. Right here, look no further. It's a really, really good series. Then, of course, my journey through Temeraire continues with Throne of Jade. And this one was a little lackluster. Like, it was still really, really good. But I give this one about 4 stars because, frankly, not a lot happens. And that's kind of proven in the audiobooks. There's 2 different audiobooks. There's an abridged version of this, what is this, like 377-page book, which seems kind of short to have an abridged version, but there's a lot of stuff in here that just is kind of day in the life and isn't really necessary to telling the full story. So there are 2 versions of the audiobook. I, of course, did the extended, the full version that was done by Simon Vance. I love Simon Vance. He does a great job. We do get to kind of explore and test the relationship of Temeraire and Lawrence while going on this journey because, you know, they're kind of in this honeymoon period in the first book where they can do no wrong to each other, and we get to kind of test that relationship through Throne of Jade. But this one was really good. I am still excited to continue with Temeraire with book number 3. I should be reading that one in March. We're kind of doing a buddy read of sorts between myself, Nico, and Murphy Napier. We're all reading this, and we're having a really good time with it. I then got John Scalzi's Old Man's War and read this one. And this was 100% needed. Again, sci-fi just seems to really be working for me lately, and this was no exception. Like, it was just fantastic. John Perry is amazing. My sadness with this series is that each book is kind of its own little standalone, and this is the UK paperback if you're wondering, like, hey, that one looks weird. It's because I sent away for this one, because I didn't want the hardcovers, and I didn't want the mass market paperbacks, so the only trade paperbacks available were in the UK format. But this is Old Man's War. It's funny, it's inventive, it's great space opera sci-fi, while at the same time just analyzing and coming full circle feelings of loss and feelings of inevitability and growing old. It was really, really good. There are some, like, there's like a chapter or 2 where they go a little crazy with the sexual content. It's not like crossing a line or anything, but like if you go from 75 to full vitality again, it explores those concepts of what it's like to be young after being old. And so that's kind of in here, and it happens, but it moves on fairly well from there, and I really, really, really enjoyed this series. I can't wait to continue. I then came back and did Spire Climbers by Rob J. Hayes. I've been meaning to read this one for like 6 months. I believe I bought this book back in May of 2023. And man, let me tell you what, this series continues to be an absolute delight. We've got Iroh and Emil, and they're still kind of Titan hopping. They spend a lot more time on the Titan this time, and we get to explore a lot more themes. We get to learn a little bit more about this universe and how this world kind of works. Like, it's weird when I say universe and then world, but it's also the kind of valid. So I'm excited for book 3. I believe Rob is currently like writing book 3, and I can't wait to have that in my hands so that I can wrap this series up. Although I don't know if it's a trilogy or if it's an ongoing series. Either way, I can't wait for the 3rd book. I gave this one a full 5 stars. It was really, really, really good. I did a buddy read with Joanna from Joanna Reads, and we did Rebecca by Daphne du Maurier. I really enjoyed this book. It's a very interesting analyzation of some themes where we have an unnamed protagonist. Throughout the entire book, she never actually gets named, which I thought that was really, 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 really cool. She never gets named, and then, like, through this story, she kind of comes in as the second wife. She's got these inferiority complexes and things of that nature. We get to explore all of that, all while being haunted by the ghost of the first wife, Rebecca. And it's so incredibly good. For the time period that this was written out, it's aged very well. And even though we never get a named, like, protagonist, it still works. It still works incredibly well. So this one was a great read. I'm so glad I got to buddy read this with Joanna. She's fantastic. And that's all I really got to say about that. And then before I forget, I want to talk about The Last Light. This is the 5th Wandering Inn book, and I really, really enjoyed this one. This was a huge return to form for me in terms of Wandering Inn, where it just blasted straight into 5 stars. The way this one ends is mind-blowing. For some reason, when I was talking about it earlier, I skipped right over book 6. I'm not quite done with this current arc. For some reason, I was like, oh yeah, let's just go straight to Rains, Tears, and Blood of Lascor. There's a whole book that I forgot to talk about, and that's General, I believe, of Israel. Israel? I don't know. The name is kind of escaping me at this point. But it's a really, really, really good read. This is probably my favorite as of this point of the story. I believe, yeah, we're gonna go ahead and say that The Last Light was really good. We got a return of a certain character that I really, really enjoyed. She is a doctor, and she is fantastic. We got some great Ryoka moments in this book. Some really good Ryoka moments. I really, really enjoyed them. And overall, like, I've got just thinking about this book leaves me smiling. So if you love Wandering Inn and you haven't quite gotten to book 5 yet, book 5 is so incredibly good. You're in for a treat. And then there's one other book that I have finished this month, and that is The Will of the Many by James Islington. And let me tell you what, like 80% of this book is really, 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 really good. And James Islington, in his craft, has really kind of catapulted and upgraded where he kind of started out at. And I'm going to tell you what, like, the last 10 to 15%, like, I'm just kind of like, I'm confused again, because, like, he can write really complicated plots. So this one I gave 4 stars to. And I've got a book review coming out about it soon where I'll kind of explore those thoughts a little bit more. But really, right now, I'm just kind of still processing The Will of the Many. There are more books that are going to be coming out. I'm very excited for those books. But what Vess goes through is really, really fantastic. And I love this character. I love the world. I love the magic system. I love the incorporating of Roman themes. All of that really, really, really worked for me. But it also maintains a level of tension throughout the story that I find kind of fatiguing. And so it got to the point where, like, I would open the book and I would be like, great, this is just going to be more tension throughout the story, because it's a story under constant tension. He's hiding in plain sight, essentially. He's living a false life under an assumed identity, and he's trying to, like, con these people. Well, not really con. He's trying to bring them down from the inside throughout the entire story. And I find stories like that kind of wear me down after a while, and so that's why I think I've given this one 4 stars. But it is very, very, very good. And then right now, I am about 66% at the time of recording through a contract in Sorn. It is the 30th. There's no way I'm going to be able to finish the rest of this book before the end of the month. So this one is going to kind of carry over into February. But I'm going to tell you right now, the new main character is Vaelin. Vaelin? V-A-E-L-I-N. Vaelin is the only way I can think to pronounce that. She is a djinn. She is amazing. There is another kind of POV in here called Dorvin, who just needs to get a slap. His whole point in this story is to have a redemption arc, and getting through that redemption arc can be kind of frustrating. So I am anticipating this one to be a 4-star read. I'm loving the world still. I love Aelin. Like, she is fantastic. She's an exquisite character. Like, I just absolutely love her agency, and I love the decisions she makes. She's, like, from the time of the elves. She's thousands of years old. But, like, man, she's just so incredibly well written. If you haven't picked up any of the 8th Chance series, like, you need to. Like, Elon Marsh and Christopher Warman knocked this one out of the park. But that was my January. Please let me know in the comments down below if you agree with my thoughts, how your January went, and I just kind of want to hear from you guys. That's all I've really got for you. So till next time, peace out. Stay magical. Bye. And as always, I want to give a huge thank you to my patrons. Thank you for supporting my passion and my hobby. And a special shout out to my top tier Wizard Master patrons. Thank you, Nico, Aaron, Scott, Mike, Chris, Leslie, Doug, Wystitch, Twaney, Spyro, Sarah, Jughead, and Chris, the Bookaholic. Thank you so much.